this is looking at the 6Z run out of this morning, showing a monster storm right off the coast. I mean, just powerhouse storm right off the coast of the Northeast. I mean, a monster storm of epic proportions. So, what will lead to this pattern is, the weather pattern we're in right now: negative NAO, negative AO, positive PNA. And yeah, the weather pattern is ripe for a big storm. But the problem is, a lot of the more reliable models are not really picking up on what the GFS picked up this morning. And I read last night's tweet after the 18Z came out last night. Everyone was on top of that. Everyone was like, "Oh my God, look at the 18Z." People are also saying, "Oh, look at the 6Z as well." But the temperatures are not that impressive. With this kind of powerful storm coming up the coast, the temperatures are probably going to be like in the teens and 20s. The GFS did factor a couple things out that they should have factored in. So yeah, they did kind of, this run did kind of mess up on a couple things. But the reason for that is because it's saying that this warm core, this low is going to be so big that it's going to have a lot of warm air to work with. That's also not, so out of the question. But also, it has a warm core with it. I mean, look at this. Like most storms are cold core. Most storms are cold core. Look at this storm. It actually has a warm core with it. This is at 700 millibars above freezing. Go up to 500 millibars. This is very impressive. So you have the polar vortex basically trying to come in. This is actually the polar vortex right here. Yeah. A piece of it, at least. And then here's a big storm. Warm core. Yeah, that is impressive. A warm core in the middle of December. Still not tropical, of course, but that's very unusual. This will determine if this storm is going to be tropical or extratropical by looking at the the core or the temperatures inside the storm at 850 millibars. Yeah, definitely not tropical. I mean, temperatures inside the storm are what, 10 degrees Celsius? That's not tropical. But it's neither extratropical either. I mean, subtropical either. Subtropical, you'll probably need something like this. I mean, this is a regular extratropical storm that goes over the Gulf Stream and really explodes. Thing is, the new runs are not picking this up. The new runs are saying, "Oh, the storm is going to be a bust," and it's possible that could happen. Also, they're saying the storm is going to be further off the coast, and it's not going to stall. The reason for the stall, according to that run, to the 6Z run, let's see what will lead up to the stall. There'll be a couple things. So here's the polar vortex right over here. This is the entire polar vortex, basically. You have the polar vortex trying to work itself down, but then you have the polar vortex split. It splits in two. You have an eastern section here, and you have a western section. So the eastern section, disintegrates, and then this section takes over and moves towards Alaska and then tries to go to Siberia. Still, the AO is negative. You still have a negative AO. But what happens is, look, because you have a storm over here, I believe, yeah, this is a high-pressure system building down. You have a high-pressure system blocking the storm. You have a low-pressure system over here, so the storm also stalls because of this. Also because it's exploding so rapidly. The 12Z didn't really show this. The 12Z shows this. 12Z shows a storm, basically coming out of the Midwest. Southeast. That high-pressure system is not to be found, so there's no real block, and it just zips on out of here. You have another storm that just, also zips on out of here, but it's way off the coast. Mostly because this polar vortex is much further to the north. If this polar vortex is a little further to the south, or if a piece of it comes down far enough south, you could have yourself a pretty powerful storm. So if you have a, say, it's pretty interesting what's going on right now with the polar vortex. By it breaking up, everything becomes, topsy-turvy. Everything just becomes, all over the place. I mean, look at the Arctic oscillation right now. Which, negative means the polar vortex breaks up. So here's a polar vortex going all the way down to like a -5. Very unusual. Then it recovers and then goes back down. Usually when it's in a recovery phase is where you have big storms. The PNA is, positive, also, favorable for storms. The NAO is going negative, favorable for storms. Everything is favorable for an East Coast storm right now. Everything's just primed. Like, the shotgun's loaded. The thing is, it's where the storm's going to go. Is it going to be weak, or is it going to be strong? The 12Z run, as I said, shows storms going, off the coast, but not too far. But the 18Z, the current run that just came out, like last 30 minutes, shows something completely different from all the other runs. It shows basically, here you have an area of low pressure trying to form. Looks like something may happen. I mean, you have a powerful polar vortex right here. And then look, it weakens. It's very weak. And you have a storm going off the coast. And then what happens is, the polar vortex seems to recover around the 24th of January, which is right around here. The 24th of January should be about, so this is when it's recovering, but then it's going to go back down. And that is probably when it, it's probably going to recover. But then when this swings back around, probably have the polar vortex and then move probably over Greenland. But are we going to have a big snowstorm this winter? The answer is probably not yet. I'm not sure. Is this winter going to be a bust or not? Because you have a lot of models all just really all over the place. Everything right now is disorganized. You have one model that's saying nothing significant. You have one model that's saying big blizzard. I mean, everything right now is just disorganized. This is the GMA model. The GMA model is showing an inland runner right here, or a coastal storm, but a little further to the south. You can see precipitation. But here's a 540 line right here, basically. So probably a snowstorm. Yeah, but look, in 12 hours, it's going this way, and it'll probably go northeast then. Not too bad. What does a 6Z show? Let's go back 12 hours and then go back to 6. 6Z run shows nothing. The weird thing is, it's either 84 or 240 hours. I mean, all the other runs go up to 84. That's the GMA model. This is the Canadian run. This is the latest run that just came out with the Canadian. Canadian is showing a storm, but it's showing a completely different scenario. It's showing the polar vortex all the way over here. I mean, that's not likely. Very unlikely. This storm is showing basically what is probably not going to happen. And this polar vortex will probably try to collapse down back south. So the GFS is showing the polar vortex, completely entrenched over us. So this is the storm that's going to kind of miss us. Very unimpressed, this winter is showing mostly like a bust type winter, but by looking at these models, you can see how negative the AO is. I mean, it doesn't make any sense why the models are not showing anything significant right now. The odds of a major storm happening sometime this winter is about 40% in New York City. Reason the odds are so low is because of that polar vortex breaking up instead of, coming down and, going to the Midwest. The polar vortex goes a little further to the west, like maybe over the Midwest, then you'll have a big storm. But if it goes too far to the east, then it won't really produce a lot of snow, just produce a lot of cold. What you want to have is a run that you had like 24 hours ago, where it showed a storm, about 995 millibar storm here, maybe 980, then going off the coast, bombing out, and delivering tons of snow. That's what you really want to see. I'll have to wait for the other runs to come out tonight at midnight. This is the CFS V2. This run is showing something like what the GFS is showing, but it's showing the storm, bombing out a little more intensely. Look at the 18Z run last night. Look what it showed. It showed a massive storm just exploding right over New York City. And then it showed storms, one storm, then another storm, and then another storm. See how the cold air is just moving down? When this comes over New York, it's going to be a big snowstorm. The current run is showing, here's what it's showing. A miss, and then a possible weak storm, and then inland runner, and no more significant storms except this one. This one looks like it's going to be off the coast type storm. Looks like kind of a storm that you'll just get a prolonged period of light snow. Unlikely though. And then probably just produce a lot of rain. So what's going to happen basically? It's anyone's guess right now. Meteorologists are having a very hard time. This is what they mean when they're having just issues. All meteorologists are probably having headaches right now, trying to figure out what the heck's going on with the atmosphere right now. This is not normal during an El Nino. During an El Nino, you usually have a zonal pattern. Not this. This does not happen during an El Nino. Ever. This is unusual, unheard of during an El Nino. Just unheard of. You're not supposed to have this during an El Nino, basically. You're not supposed to have a big, trough that goes down into like the Midwest like that. Usually with an El Nino, you usually have a ridge or a zonal flow, a very Pacifically dominated flow. This year, the flow is not really Pacifically dominated. I mean, this right now. A Pacifically dominated flow would be more east to west, or something like this. But this is not Pacific dominated right now. It's anything but. Even this is not really Pacific dominated. This is kind of Pacifically dominated right now. In like February. But this, I mean, if this happens, the Northeast is going to be clogged with like sub-zero temperatures. I mean, I haven't seen temperatures like this since like last year when we talk about all this cold. This is very, very unusual. This is looking at 850 millibars. Even the GFS is not showing something that extreme, but still, that's pretty impressive. But it's showing the cold air retreating. What does the CFS V2 show that as well? And the CFS V2 is a little more accurate with long-term weather forecasting than the GFS is. The CFS V2, in fact, hold on, that was the GFS. The CFS V2 does it show that withdrawal of cold air? It tries to pick it up. Yes, it does in fact show temporarily withdrawal of cold air, but then boom, it just comes right back down. So yeah, January, February will be cold. I wouldn't necessarily say snowy, but in a weather pattern like this, yes, you could have a few good-sized snowstorms. So I would not rule out the chance of a snowstorm this winter in the Northeast. Thank you for watching and have a great day. Bye.